Hello, my people, and welcome. I'm here today with my friend Sheri Brown, who I have known for about at least 20 years. And we are going to speak today about human design. And for those of you that don't know what that is, there is a plethora of information on the internet about it. But Sheri is a specialist and she looks at human design through a lens that I don't know of anyone that's looking this way through her education, through her background, through who she is as a person, her experiences in life, and just her cosmic and at the same time very grounded approach to how human design is a tool for conscious living. And it is something that once you start to understand even a little bit of it, you'll want to understand more. So, we're going to have a conversation about that, and we're just going to see how it goes. And I'll begin by saying that my human design journey started in 2010, and I was, of course, not looking. And isn't that how divine intervention happens when you're not looking? I had just started to travel from city to city with Lee Carroll and present with him. And we were going to this place in Mount Shasta, California. And it was actually on my birthday in 2010 that we arrived there. And we pulled up to the Mount Shasta Lodge, I think it's called. And there was a woman waiting for us who was our host. And Lee introduced me and said, "This is Beth Black. She does this thing called human design. I think you'll like it." And that was it. And, I was very into what I had to do to get set up and ready and checked in and all that. Didn't go any further with it. But throughout that weekend, Beth presented a very simple, concise introduction to human design. And I have to say, it was life changing. It gave me a different lens to view myself and my place in the world. And I think Sheri will talk about that more. So I actually went on to do some training with Beth, um, only for myself. I don't do charts or consults or anything with people, but I recognize the value that it has. And it can be, if I can compare it to astrology, which astrology is part of human design, it's as simple as saying, I'm a Taurus, or saying, well, my fourth house or my 12th house, and I have a trine. So you can take it at whatever level you want to. You can see how it serves you and what you need from it. There's no pressure here. We're just having a conversation and seeing where it takes us in the unfolding, in the revealing of human design through Sheri Brown. So good vibes, Sheri.
Good
Say,
vibes it is. Thank you
yeah,
for having me.
yeah, my pleasure. So,
So go ahead. You go ahead.
no,
Start
no.
start asking
What would
questions.
you like us to know to begin with? Maybe there are people that know about it. Maybe there are people that don't. What's the most salient thing you can say about it right at the beginning here?
The most salient thing I can say is that human design to me is a very comprehensive system that really was designed with, I think, the collective consciousness in mind. I think that this is absolutely evolutionary in terms of moving from, in a very scientific way, moving from Neanderthal to Cro-Magnon to Homo sapien, and then this new crystalline energy that is coming onto the planet right now in terms of our consciousness. And so, encompasses our DNA, encompasses our astrological makeup, encompasses the I Ching, the tree of life, in a way that gives us information about our energy type, how we interact with the world, other people, how we identify with who we are, and then tuning into the energetic strategy that works for us so we can consciously create our lives in a way that is flowy and
Hmm.
expansive and aligned with this ever expanding consciousness.
So you just said energy type. So does that mean you have a lot of energy or not much energy? What is
Well,
an energy type?
so there are different energy types. Before I say that, I want to say this in a very simplistic way, and then we can talk about energy types. One of the significant shifts that I believe happened that kind of, as I alluded to talking about our human evolution, is we have moved into a new level of consciousness where we are not meant to be in our heads thinking, overthinking in that mental space. And so my understanding is if you think about an analogy of, let's say, a car, so the masculine energy, the yang energy is really that thinking energy, where the divine feminine is the design. So think of the car as the design, the feminine energy, the ajna, the third, the I wanted to say third eye, but it's the ajna energy center in human design. The mental energy is the passenger. The feminine energy is the design of the car. And then the G center, which we'll talk about, is the actual driver. And I use that analogy very specifically because it's really, really hard for humans to get out of that mental energy and out of our heads and move more into that divine flow of the divine feminine energy, which is the container. And it really makes so much sense, right? So the divine feminine is the container holding the energy, and the G center, which is one of our energy centers in human design, is the driver.
Hmm.
And I love that analogy because what I think human design is really all about, it's really all about just being the passenger in your life and let the G center and the energy and the intuition and the deeper knowing of who we are, really be the way that we move through life. So, human design and all of its complexity of what I mentioned of the I Ching and astrology and the tree of life and all of the pieces that make it up, all of the components that make up the body graph of it, really is a system designed to help everyone know who they are, align with it, that energy, that inner knowing, that particular body graph that each and every one of us has, and how to really consciously create life in a way that works for us, that is aligned with who we are, with our unique design.
So that takes us out of the box of how well you and I were raised in school, where there was standardized testing and color, and this trees are green and sky is blue. It takes us out to each one of us is a unique soul on this planet with a unique purpose. And through human design, you can get a look at that.
I agree. And I think purpose is definitely a part of it. I think perception is definitely a part of it. And I really wanted to do the math. But the unique, most amazing thing about human design is if you begin to take the channels, take the I Ching, which there are 64, the codons in our DNA, all of it, and you begin multiplying, and we'll get into this, and probably it might kind of overflow into part two of this conversation. But if you take mathematically all the combinations of the gates, the channels, the astrology, which gates are open, which are closed, which are complete, which are not complete. I want to say that there are trillions of different combinations of what is possible in any human design. So it
Yeah.
absolutely transcends anything astrological with, our chart. It's much bigger than that. And I do want to say the inside of the body graph of human design really gives us all of that calculable information. And then the outer layer of it and the astrological piece in the I Ching is how we interpret it and bring it into our lives and how we can actually use it. And I don't yes, this is complex, but it definitely, once you understand your human design and how it works, it really makes a lot of sense in a very practical way.
So give an example of how that would work for someone. Doesn't have, it can be a hypothetical person if they don't understand their type, or they, it's, this is confusing for them, or they say, well, I'm a Gemini or I'm a Taurus, so I'm like this or that. How would understanding that, understanding their energy type, be helpful?
That's such a great question. So, you asked about the energy types, and so on the in the most simplistic way, there are generators in the world and they make up about 70% of the population. There are manifestors in the world that make up, I think, roughly 13 to 15% of the population. Projectors are 20%, and reflectors are 1%. There are also manifesting generators as well, kind of as a subset of generators. And so those are the five, it's really the four main types, with manifesting generator being a subset, like I said, of the generator energy type. And so, in the most simplistic way, that's the best place to start to begin to understand who you are. So, you can actually go onto a human design website and enter your birthday, your place, your birth time, and then at least get that basic information. The thing about what I really want to mention that I think is fascinating is that part of the human design, really does involve the quantum field. And I don't want to get into it in any great depth right now. But because, like I said, talking about neutrinos, so neutrinos are kind of filtering through everything all the time as a subatomic particle. And with our unique human design, even though the neutrinos are the same, they filter through us in a different way. And to
Right.
answer your question about astrology, because astrology is encompassed and embedded in the human design system, we are experiencing who we are through the filtration of those neutrinos coming through our human design. So the big energy type is, like I said, generator, manifesting generator, manifestor, projector, reflector. And then within that, we have the astrological piece. We have gates that are a part of the I Ching, and then channels that connect the gates. So,
So in basically you can go on the internet and find out what type you are.
yes, and you can actually get your entire body graph. So you
Okay.
will see, and I really want to use you as an example, Amber, because projectors are really interesting. Projectors don't have a pathway to connect their throat chakra. And so it's very interesting. And I want to let me see if I should take a sidestep here for 1 minute and make it a little less complicated. I want to stop for 1 second. I'm going to back up for 1 second. As I mentioned, in the evolution of humanity and our evolving consciousness, we moved from a 7 chakra system, which is very much embedded in human design. But we moved into this 9 energy body system. So it's like the chakra system, but it's kind of a little bit different with instead of crown, it's head, and ajna is the same, and throat is the same. We have a G center in human design. We have our heart, we have our solar plexus, and our sacral and our root chakra, but in human design, they're energy centers. And I'm bringing that up because, and then we also have a spleen center. Spleen is very interesting because spleen is very ancient in terms of our evolution. So
Mhm.
this is really instinct. This is
Mhm.
really where we were operating from. And I don't want to lose my train of thought. But if you think about, our evolutionary ancestors, they were coming from instinct and they were working from a spleen center. And then we moved into head center in terms of just our overall consciousness and our thinking. And now we're kind of shifting out of that and moving into G center, which is more energy. But I want to get back to this. In general, a generator will always have a defined sacral energy center. Always. A manifester will always have a motor center connected to their throat. Projectors will never have a defined sacral center. Reflectors will never have any defined center. So, like I said, generators have a defined sacral center. Generators have an ability to read what is going on around them. They know characteristically, yes, this is for me. No, this is not for me. And they just read immediate energy and make a decision from either yes or no. And that really is, and I do want to say it this way, that's their energy type. So generators say yes or they say no. And if they're coming from their authentic, aligned place as a generator, that's what they do. And if they're in their not self mode, then they can get very frustrated by not knowing when to say yes and when to say no. So they're always in that space of making that decision, yes or no, yes or no. Manifestors are the initiators of human design. So manifestors really are all about gathering up the energy and communicating it to everyone else.
Mhm.
So, and that's why the throat chakra or a motor channel to the throat is true for all manifestors. They are the initiators. Generators are not the initiators, generators are the workers. Generators get things done. So, manifestors are like, hey, I've got an idea, let's do this. And then the generator will say, oh yeah, I'll do that. Or they could say, nope, not for me.
Mhm.
So they're really interactive, they're really intertwined. So a manifester is going to initiate everything going on around them.
So, using that example, hey, I've got an idea. So, the manifestor's got an idea. The generator says, I'll get behind you. And yes, I'll get behind you and generate the energy to bring it into being. How would the reflector and the projector operate with those
Well, I
in
mean,
that
I
scenario?
think the projector is really the energy type to say, let's dig a little bit deeper. I totally can talk about this, but I want to put all of it out there. And projectors are very interesting because their energy strategy, how could I say this? Projectors like telling everyone like, "Hey, look at this. Look what I found out. This is what you can do. You should do this. Why not do this?" And the thing about projector energy is that if they are not invited, the strategy, how could I say this? Other energy types may not want to hear what a projector has to say. So a projector can want to
Okay.
say a lot and put it out there, but they have to read the room and know if that what they have to say is invited.
Okay. And then how about the reflector? How with that scenario?
I think reflectors are really in the world as a mirror to everyone else. So reflectors in general, and the reason why I hesitated is that, my first thought was it depends on the channel, it depends on the gates, right? It's not, I'm kind of breaking it down from type into the astrological component of it. And then, the gates and the channels kind of take it to a different level. But in general, a reflector is saying, you're initiating, you're creating, you're projecting, and I'm going to take all that information and see if it's all really working. So we're just kind of reflecting back to humanity, to consciousness, to the world. Yeah, this is good. This makes sense.
So if you had like a team of people and one of each, that's how it would go. The manifester would say, "Hey, I've got this great idea." And then the generator would say, "I know how we're going to do this." And then the projector would have to be held back from going, "Hey, let's get this out in the world. I know
Right.
just how I want to say it." And then the reflector would go, "That's not going to work so well."
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. That's really what's going on.
Okay.
So think the manifestors are the initiators of human design, the generators are the workers, the projectors are putting it into the field, and the reflectors are kind of assessing how it's all coming together.
So when you look at your chart and find out what type you are, that's just like one category of all of the trickle down of all of that. Just like in astrology, yes, I'm a Taurus, but I also have this and I have that, and everyone does. So, what is the next best step for people who are just getting into this? And I want to mention that your way of getting into this as a reflector is, and as a psychologist and as a mindset coach, is, I feel like you are the whole banana split with a cherry on top, and that you have this unique way of looking at your energy type and everything else that goes on in it. But that being said, how would people who are watching this and want to see if they want to go any further, what's the next best step for them? They get their chart. I don't know what website you suggest for that, or if you
I
have
really like the Jovian
oh yeah,
human
Jovian
design
Archive.
website. I think that's the
Yes.
best one. We could put the link in the description box for that.
Yeah, yeah, I think it is too. And okay, so and then once somebody sees that chart, and maybe we could edit this somewhere and put a chart up so people can go, "Oh my God, what's all that?"
Well, why don't we can let's pull up Orion's chart for
Okay,
fun.
sure.
But I do think, and I do want to say this, I love, love, love astrology. I love looking at different charts and Western astrology, and etc. But I do think that human design incorporates astrology in such a beautiful way in terms of, like I have mentioned, our genetic code and the I Ching, right? And my background is in cell biology and genetics, right? So that really deeply resonates with me in terms of like, the bigger picture of the energy and the astrology and the genetic component and the personality and the psychology behind it. It's kind of a very comprehensive look at who you are. And so I think it's not about oh, let me get my chart and I'll do a reading and I'll understand everything about myself. Right?
Yeah.
It's really a journey. And the
Yeah.
thing about it is, and we can pull up Orion's chart in a minute, but I think the thing about it is that, if you have an incomplete gate, and it'll make sense in a minute, you may meet someone who has the gate that is incomplete for you.
You complete me.
Right. And so, quite literally, you can
Yeah.
meet people that are like, oh my God, I feel so complete when I'm around you.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
quite literally, that really can happen.
Yeah.
And so, it's not one thing. I think it's really about, many, many sessions of diving a little bit deeper each time into who the way that astrology works. I'm
Yeah.
always discovering new things about
Yeah.
my natal chart and my progressive chart and the whole bit. I think it's the same thing.
Yeah. I
So,
agree.
anyway, but if you want to share screen, I can pull
Okay.
up with my 30 tabs that are open, being the Gemini that I am. Okay, here's Orion's chart. It's not from Jovian. I pulled this up from another site. So, this is the body graph. And I would love to talk more about the numbers on each side, but I think it would make this conversation entirely too complex. So,
Yeah.
if you go to Jovian Archives or another human design place and you enter your information, a graph like this will get pulled up. And so the basic information is these are the 9 energy centers. They look very similar to our 7 chakra system, which is fine because the design included the 7 chakra system. But the 9 energy body system is kind of an evolved understanding of how we really work on an energetic level. So if you look at my cursor, you can see the head energy center. If you look closely, you can see the numbers of all the I Ching from 1 to 64 scattered throughout these energy centers.
And
Here is,
why are some of these colored and some of these white? I
if
think.
they're colored, they are defined energy centers.
Okay.
So Orion,
Or,
if you have head, ajna, G center, sorry, throat, G center, heart, spleen, solar plexus, sacral, root, we can tell if you go right where my cursor is, we can tell he is a generator. He has a defined sacral center. And so he is a generator. And his strategy is to respond. Like I said, generators say yes, no. Generators are the worker bees of human design. They are designed to tune in, say yes or no. And so if a generator, I'm looking right here at higher emotional theme, if a generator is aligned with who they are and they're doing yes, no, and paying attention to their energy and their strategy, they will feel deeply satisfied. If they don't do that, their emotional theme is frustration.
right.
And so Orion happens to have a defined root, a defined sacral center, defined spleen. And like I mentioned earlier, spleen is kind of our ancestral energy center. This is definitely instinct. This is definitely feeling, definitely survival. And if you look here from spleen, there is a connected channel all the way to heart. And so this is what a connected channel looks like. And a channel is based on the tree of life. And it's really has its roots in Kabbalah, right? And so, like I said, this is a very integrative system. And so this little black dot here is a gate. The channel connects to the gate in the heart.
And those are all the I Ching
And these
numbers,
are
right?
all the I Ching. And so if you look down here at these channels, you can see that gate 34 is connected to gate 10. And so Orion's chart is about courage. And gate 26 is connected to 44, and that is about alignment. And 27 and 50 is about preservation. And 52, 9 to 52 is about clarity and focus.
So
So this is what everyone will see in their own
something
chart.
similar to this.
Right. So like here on the left column in the yellowy mustard color is life purpose and then soul purpose.
Hmm.
And so
Well,
so you can see it's pretty complicated when you first look at it, but you can definitely gather really nice basic information about your energy type, your profile, your higher emotional theme, and what your non-self is.
what, so in just in really general terms, it looks like he has four open centers and five defined centers. And is that kind of usual? Do people have both and but in different places?
Yes. So I'll stop the share and then we
Okay.
can kind of talk about that. I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything. I just want to say, for example, this gate right here from
Uh-huh.
solar plexus that's moving up toward throat is not a completed channel. So it's only half full, right? And so these are incomplete channels. So just I think that that matters because those channels are really giving information about, what your hallmark characteristics are for you as a human being. And so like I said with Orion, it's courage and alignment and preservation and focus, right? And so it just gives us a little bit more information about who we are.
And there were some channels that had two colors in them. They were complete channels, but then they had like a mustard color, but then they had a half of a brown coming down into it also. So,
I think that before I talk about the complexity of that, I want to answer your other question about which energy centers are defined and not defined.
okay.
But hang on, there was something else I wanted to bring up too. The thing about defined, so the colored centers are considered defined in human design. The ones that are open and undefined were not colored in. The thing about human design, and I'm saying this coming from a reflector, because I have no completed channels and I have no defined centers. And so, because I can tune into the feeling of that for me, I, and I don't want to talk about myself, but I'll paint a bigger picture in 1 second. If you have a defined center, it can be an amazing attribute, right? So if you know someone who, may have a defined G center or a defined head center, they always seem to know exactly what they're talking about. Their opinions are very, very clear. And I, as a reflector, think, gosh, I wonder how they can feel so strongly about that. I could see that from like 150 different ways, you know? Right.
Yeah.
And so the beautiful thing about human design that I want to make very clear is if you have a defined center, it can feel very empowering and stabilizing and steadying and grounding, but it can also hold energy from past conditioning and programming.
Oh.
Right. So it can be an amazing attribute, but the deeper level of self awareness would be if my root energy center is defined, what am I holding on to from past programming, or is it pure energy coming from the root.
And how do you know that?
I think that's really an endeavor in greater and greater self-awareness and understanding your human design. That's it's kind of like what I was saying about astrology. I mean, how long have you been studying astrology?
Uh,
Decades?
yeah, yeah,
And you still don't have all the answers.
definitely not.
Right. And so I think this is the same beautiful unfolding endeavor into who we are and how we relate to ourselves and one another, how we create our inner authority as we make observations about ourselves, our interactions in the world, right? What we notice, what we dismiss, what we value, right? It's that bigger picture of not just greater and greater self awareness leading to self realization, but it really comes down to how do we consciously create in an aligned way with who we are as our energy type. So it goes back to the bigger five, broad energy types.
As you said that, I was thinking about something that I said earlier. I'm not sure if we recorded this, but how we're made to fit into a box when we're
Right.
younger, and how so many people fail at being in that box. And it means to them that there's something wrong with them. So, but we try to live in that world that we're supposed to step into and be like. And that for me, when I learned about my type and many other things about being a projector, it really freed me from that box. And I feel like that is that for, I mean, and I can't say that about astrology, because if we say, because astrology has 12 things going on, but it also has, the angle of this and how many degrees, and if it's a trine, or if, like in my chart, I have no water. It's called a water void in my chart. I have earth, air, and fire, but no water. So flow, not that easy for me. Do I always want to be in the water, live near the water? Yeah. Can I have a pool in my yard, please? So that for me was is good information. But the inner authority part is, I think it's worth a whole conversation, if that feels right to
I
you.
think that we could have 6 YouTube conversations.
I
We could
know.
have 20. We could have a year's full. But I do think, right, and don't forget too, there's a part of human design where, you back up 88 days into if you're in the middle of Taurus season or close to the end, your 88-day mark that would precede, May 16th could be possibly in a water sign. Could be maybe it probably would be in Aquarius actually. I'd have to really think about it. But I think I completely agree with you. I understand what you are saying because the human design system is so much more comprehensive. It's taking in all of the aspects really of who we are. And I want to say, like I said at the very beginning, when I started doing the math on the I Ching and the channels and the possible gate combinations and the whole bit and the astrology, I think that there are trillions of different combinations that can be possible for each and every one of us.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think that it really validates how different we all are. But I want to go back to you talking about being a projector, because I think there are projectors, if they have energy centers that are defined, they can act like generators in the world. But
Yeah.
then there are projectors, when they try to get into generator mode, they get tired very, very quickly. And so projectors can't, it's not sustainable for them.
Right.
And, we didn't really even talk about strategy, and that definitely can be an entirely different conversation. We kind of got into it with generators being yes and no. And, if a projector tries to initiate, it probably won't work for them,
Yeah.
right? It won't work for a generator. It definitely won't work for a reflector, you know? And so I want to go back to those defined and undefined energy centers. We can, especially for me being a reflector, I can kind of morph and pick up on different energies all the time. And part of my strategy is wait a lunar cycle, wait 28 days before you make any major decision. Where a
Gosh.
generator is going to be
Yeah.
like, yes, no, going to chill out and
Yeah.
not do much of anything and let the answer come.
So in today's world where everything is automatically there in 3 seconds, that's a whole different feeling, 28 days.
You know, I'm laughing inside because when I think about what you said about, you know, everyone being in a box and not fitting in, I can't even imagine, you know, my entire life of just being sort of, you know, kind of in the ethers, making decisions and waiting an entire lunar cycle. Um, but everything that we're talking about goes back to inner authority. If a generator knows yes or no, and if they don't feel aligned with their inner authority and that strategy, they are going to say yes to things they should say no to, and vice versa.
Yeah.
That's when they get into frustration mode, right? And so each and every one of us, we have a strategy. And when we are coming from our own inner authority, from what is true for us in that entire chart, where we know, like I said, some projectors can have that generator definition and channels that are working in a certain way where they can be that higher energy guided individual. The main thing is that that entire body graph helps an individual decide what is their strategy, what is their inner authority, what are their gifts, and how can they be in the world, how are they interacting, and even more importantly than that, you know, New Yorkers would say, oh my gosh, it's kismet, right? When we meet people that were like, oh my God, I feel like I've known you forever. That could very well be an energetic completion of
The
channels between
channels.
two
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
it's not one thing, it's a multitude of things that are very much worth exploring if you just take it from the top, go through the energy type, figure out what channels are open and closed for you, what is your strategy, and how do you align your energy, your heart, your soul, your truth with what that body graph is showing you.
Do you think that, well, before human design ever came into being, or maybe even before that, maybe when we stepped out of being mammalian, that we had consciousness of our inner authority already, and that it sort of was washed out of it, and the famous box became the way that we lived.
Well, I think it kind of goes back to what I was saying about, you know, our Neanderthal ancestors. If everyone is buying into this evolutionary model of things, like let's just say that this is the way that it is. So we have Neanderthal kind of in that splenic, you know, instinctive mode of living and
Yeah.
survival, right? And then Neanderthal moved into Cro-Magnon, and then all of a sudden, Cro-Magnon moved into Homo sapien. And so Homo sapiens, we developed and evolved in a much different way, right? Our sounds ended up becoming words, and our minds ended up becoming, you know, a big part of our evolving consciousness and evolution. So it's definitely spiritual, it's definitely metaphysical, it's definitely evolutionary. It's not one thing. And so I think the beauty about the human design system is we are going through we are all experiencing an ever expanding understanding of what consciousness is. And so when human design was created, there was the death of a particular star that kind of blew up, died, collapsed, became a black hole. It filtered neutrinos through the ethers in a different way that shifted our human consciousness. And then around late 1700s, right around the time that we discovered Uranus as a planet, we had this Uranian energy kind of hit us. It's not one thing, it's a metaphysical, I think, energetic quantum field phenomenon that just continued to shift our consciousness. So, why am I saying that? It kind of goes back to the very beginning of our conversation. Human design, in part, was to help us get out of our heads. We
Mm.
don't experience ourselves through cognitive thinking, we experience ourselves through energy, feeling, soul, uh, a deeper knowing, right? So it's not one thing. So I hope that that kind of answers, I think, what you were alluding to, right? It's an
Yeah.
evolutionary process and the next step, and there will be, I think, another upgrade probably sometime next year. So in 2027, there will be another energetic upgrade. I think the idea is, like I said, it's like science, it's metaphysics, it's all of the things that are just contributing to our ever expanding understanding of ourselves and our consciousness. And I think we do need to move out of our heads a little bit personally.
Well, yeah. I
And it
mean, it
kind of
was,
goes back to what you were saying about being in a box,
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah,
this is the way that things are meant to be done.
yeah. And it's very Atlantean, that the very concept of when you repeat something that works for most people, you you grow a subdivision of where all the houses look the same because four walls and a roof and it's got all the plumbing and it has enough beds and da 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 da. So it works. And then go to the grocery stores right over there. Let's build one. Let's build a pharmacy. So there's not any kind of soul in that. And so, but we're not in Atlantis anymore. That kind of thinking is a big part of our world. It's a part of all of us. I mean, we do that just to get in the car and not get hit when we're driving. And so it's good that we have that. But as you said, as our consciousness expands, evolves, uplifts, having this system to sort of as a map to keep referring back to, because we don't have a GPS app for this. But we have this map and it tells us more in just on this flat piece of paper once we're educated to it, or we have someone like you that is educated to it. Then we have a lot. I mean, I have been my most of my life until 2010. I was living in my not self. I didn't know strategy and authority. I just listened to what a good girl was supposed to do. Not that I became a bad girl overnight, but I got to see other possibilities. And I think that's what excites me so much about human design is that there are things we don't even think about or haven't been, not our own thinking, but haven't been presented to us. We don't have a role model. We don't have a place that's a point of contact for this kind of consciousness, but now we do.
Right, exactly. And it definitely speaks to, even, you as a projector could have four projector friends and you are not really all that much alike at all.
Well,
So
I
it's
do. I
much
have
more
three
nuanced.
projector friends, and we're not the same kind of projector.
Right.
So projectors have four types. Do any of the other Does a reflector or generator or manifester have subcategories? Well, the manifesting generator,
Right.
but there's not a like a
Well,
emotional
there are
reflector.
profiles. There are profiles for each
Mm,
type.
okay.
So,
Yeah.
um, which gives even more information. I really do think that the way that the human design system is set up, it just gives us so much information about who we are, so we can come from that energetically empowered place that I would call inner authority. And it gives us an opportunity. Remember, right? I mean, we're creating our lives all the time anyhow, but why not consciously create?
Yeah.
Why not put all of the pieces together and understand, conscious creation is still coming from the throat energy center. And so, how can we speak what we want to experience into this physical reality? How can we
Into
do
being.
that?
Yeah.
Hmm.
So if someone is watching this for the first time and is just learning about human design, where would you suggest they go next? Maybe they've got their body graph and they're confused. Where would be a good place for them to start to get answers at
Well,
a
they can get
pace?
I'll give you a link for a human design session with me. And that's a really good place to start, just kind of getting the fundamental interpretation of that chart.
And how long does that take?
I usually do a fundamental interpretation somewhere around 60 to 90 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, I imagine. I mean, when I first looked at a chart, it was a little overwhelming because, chakra system, astrology, and it was like somebody blew that apart and created and put it back together and it
Right.
with all this other stuff. So that having someone who knows about it, and I do have a copy of the definitive book, that same one that I gave you, but having a human being who knows who you are and you can sit with them in their energy, I feel is infinitely more valuable.
I agree. And I think that human design really gives us, I think, a different level of understanding and compassion for everyone. We're all coming from such a different place,
Yeah.
right? We're all coming from such a
Yeah.
different place.
And we should. That's how we build a better world.
Right.
And when we know who we are in what we can give to that better world, it's instead of trying to be something that we're not, it that's what will make the better world,
Right.
not all of us trying to do the same thing. So yeah, so we'll put a link for those of you who are still in this conversation with Sheri and I. There'll be links on both Sheri's channel and my YouTube channel, and in the email that I'm sending out after this, so you can link to the whole conversation. And we'll probably have another one, won't
I
we?
think we probably will. I have a feeling.
Okay, but for now, thank you, Sheri, for sharing your wisdom and your reflecting on the human design system.
Thank you.